Welcome back everyone to the Hello World Guide. This is another episode of the Raycasting game in C++ series, and in this video we are going to continue by adding a UI to our game. So in the last video we implemented our editor's basic functionality, and while that was working there was no way to save or load our maps, and I realized that before we implemented saving and loading, it might be a better idea to have a basic UI system in place that we can interact with, and that might be a lot better than just having to press a bunch of keys and remember those. So yeah, we are going to implement basically integrate a UI library into our editor in this video. So in order to do that, we are going to use a library called Dear ImGui. So if I open this up here, you can see that this is the Dear ImGui library. The link to the GitHub repo will be present in the description, and we are going to use this library, and we'll use this to basically create our UI. And this ImGui stands for immediate mode UI library, and the reason the meaning of immediate mode is that instead of having to keep some state and then having to sync it with the actual UI, syncing the application state with the UI is a bit of a pain, and that might be overkill for our purposes, having a full-fledged UI library. So we are going to use this, which means that we are going to redraw the UI every frame, and that way we won't have to worry about keeping our state in sync at all. And yeah, this is gonna work quite well. So we are going to use this Dear ImGui library, and it's the best way to integrate it is to actually just copy the source into our project here. So the first thing you'll need to do is go ahead and clone the GitHub repo. So if I open up my terminal, I have already cloned it. You can, of course, you can either clone it in the CLI, or you can go here and this is a you can clone it like that, or you could go under I guess you could open it up in code spaces, or you could download it with actually download it as a zip like here, and you can do that, but we are going to go ahead and just clone it in the command line, and I've already cloned it, so I'm going to just move to the folder that I cloned it in, and you can see that we have got all of the ImGui files here. Now the way ImGui works is that it basically provides us with a kind of basic interface for interacting with UI. So whenever we do anything in ImGui, it is rendered to a custom data structure in ImGui, and that structure is not actually rendered onto the screen by this library. Instead, for that we have to implement a backend. So you can see we've got this backend folder. If I open this up, inside you can see there are a bunch of implementations for different backends. We basically take that custom data structure that ImGui has, and then we go ahead and basically draw that to whatever screen we have with whatever API method we are using. So there are a bunch of these implementations available, but there is not one for SFML here which we are using. But if I go to this another GitHub repo by the official SFML, then this will basically provide us with an actual backend for using ImGui with SFML. So once you are done cloning both of those repos, I'm going to move into the ImGui one, and you can see we have got all of these files here. Now I'm going to copy these files into our project basically. So we are going to copy all of the CPP files and all of the headers as well. And we are going to not copy any of the docs or examples or backends or anything else for that matter. And we are going to copy this to our project directory. So we are going to, if I now go ahead and get a listing of my project directory, you can see it consists of all of these ImGui files. Now I'm going to go to ImGui SFML now, so like this, and now you can see it also consists a couple of files, and we are going to copy this basically. So we can just say copy cpp and h, and we are going to copy this to, of course, our project directory. And now we are going to move into our project directory, so I'm going to go ahead and just go into that, and just make sure that you've got all of the files there, and of course you can put them in separate folders, but I'm going to just leave them like this. Okay, so now inside of my project directory, you are going to have to make sure you make two changes. So if I open up ImGui SFML.cpp, basically one change, you need to make sure that inside of this you might have angle brackets here. So ImGui.h might be included in angle brackets. That will give an include error. Make sure that you use quotes for this. So ImGui.h is in quotes, not in angle brackets. Anyways, after you have done that, another thing you need to make sure is that if I open up our make file, that you need to make sure that you have also got the LGL flag here. We need to link with the GL library as well, so make sure you've got that in your linker. And once we have done that, we can just run make. And well, I've already compiled everything, so it should just take a couple of seconds to compile all of the projects in your all of the files in the project, which now include many more files. But of course, ImGui is only going to be compiled once. We are not going to recompile it ever again unless we make some change to it. So with that, we have got ImGui basically integrated into our basically executable, and now we can start using it. So now in order to begin using this in our project, I'm going to open up editor.cpp and main.cpp. So now with my basic files, editor.cpp and main.cpp opened up. In main.cpp, the main thing that we'll need to do is actually initialize ImGui. So for this, we are going to include the ImGui SFML header, and we are going to call ImGui SFML init, and if it returns false, that means it failed. So we are going to return 1 and also log a basic error message saying failed to initialize ImGui. So once we have got that done, now we are going to go down here, and ImGui also requires us that we actually update it, of course, but the ImGui SFML takes in a SF time for taking that. So if I go here and call ImGui SFML update, we'll need to pass in our window, and we'll need to change this to be a SF time instead of a float. And then of course we'll need to include the time header, and now I'm going to go down here and pass delta time to the ImGui SFML update function. Now we'll also need to make sure that when we are updating the player, we use delta time.as seconds, and in here we use delta time.as seconds as well. Now we've got that, and the next thing we'll need to do is make sure that ImGui's ImGui SFML knows how to handle its events. So we need to of course call the process event function. So we're gonna just call in process event. It's going to take our window and the actual event, and we're gonna just call it at the end of our event loop. We're gonna process the events we need ourselves, and then gonna let ImGui SFML process the events that that library needs to process. So with that, we have got this basic stuff done. Now the next thing more important that we need to do is that we need to actually render the stuff to the screen. So we're going to call ImGui SFML render with our window, and this should render everything to the screen. So yeah, we are going to just call that ImGui SFML render, and it's going to render all of our stuff that we have got to the screen, which means the actual ImGui stuff. And of course in the end of this function, we are going to go ahead and say ImGui SFML shutdown. So this initializes everything with our SFML backend, but now we need to actually draw some UI with ImGui. Currently it should not change anything, so let me just run make actually, see if nothing fails. Yeah, you can see nothing changes. I can still edit my map, but yeah, it's not really something changed yet. So we're going to close this down, and now I'm going to go ahead and include imgui.h here, which is the actual library. This was the backend, so we're going to include imgui.h. And now we can go down here, and on each iteration when we are doing this, we actually can draw ImGui outside before window.clear as well, because that's not actually being rendered until we call ImGui SFML render. So we are going to go here, and we are going to say ImGui show demo window. Now this is just a really easy function that we can use to just test stuff out. So ImGui show demo window will show a custom window present in the ImGui library that will basically showcase all of its features, so we can use that to test whether it's working or not. So if I run this, you can see we do get indeed a window here which says dear ImGui demo, and it has a menu with a bunch of options and some examples. We can open up a console here, and we can close that down, and we can open up a log. Yeah, that works. So I can go under tools, I can open a metrics debugger, and you can see it's giving us a bunch of stuff about our windows and stuff we are doing with this, internal state as well, inputs, memory allocation. So it's giving us all of those. And I'm going to close this down, and we have got help as well here, so for the actual window. And yeah, it's basically working. So we've got a working ImGui window here, and of course I can actually resize the window, so I'm going to resize it to make it smaller. And yeah, you can see that that works. So this means that we have got ImGui implemented in our engine right now, and in the next video we are going to go ahead and try to actually use this to implement saving and loading in our game. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe as well, and share this video with other people, and bye.